if you want a kind of analogy, which people's minds seem to like, you can imagine a kind of stained glass window, and you are the stained glass window. You look at yourself and you notice you're broken. You have pieces broken out of you. You know, like a big stained glass window. There's hunks missing, battered, abused, chipped, wounded, rejected, you know, the whole trip that we all have. So we look at ourselves and we go, fuck. Like, I need to learn to relax. I need to learn to accept the parts of myself I project onto others, and, you know, all the psychological skills that are useful. That's like replacing glass, fixing broken glass. Oh, it's broke, you put in a new piece of glass. Yoga is like wiping the dust off the glass. You could be broken as fuck and still do good yoga. Really. I mean, as you'll see, many yogis are. so you could be entirely dysfunctional therapeutically, psychologically, emotionally. You could be a wreck and still be a master yogi. You don't have to be. I mean, the whole integral approach tries to address all that, but nevertheless, they're separate. So yoga is the capacity to allow light, let's say energy, to flow through you as you. It could be hatha yoga, letting energy flow through your body. It could be an emotional yoga, so you actually take emotional asanas, emotional postures, and you do them as a practice so that the flow of energy through your emotions is more flowful, open, unobstructed. It doesn't fix the parts of you that are broken. It just takes the dust off. It makes you more transparent, more translucent. You seem more able to flow with energy at every level. And then spiritual practice, it doesn't involve fixing the glass, nor does it involve making it more transparent to the flow of light. And again, these are just my words. Spiritual practice, per se, is realizing you are the light. In moments of realizing you are the light, there is very little motive to do much about fixing the glass or dusting it off. Not that you shouldn't. There's just not a lot of inherent motive. You're the light. So in the position of being the light, which all of us are at any moment we're willing to stop looking through the glass, that light's coming through everyone equally. Well, fully, let's say. It is everyone. It is everything. So when you're identified with that, you're essentially as moved to fix this, that, him and her, and as you are you. There's no sense of, oh, I got to deal with myself. It's a universal dealing because you are the light, not the glass. So those of you who feel you are broken or less functional than you can be, in those moments, you need therapy. Let's say sexual therapy if we're looking at sex. When you're not feeling particularly stuck in your dysfunction, but you're feeling kind of obstructed in the fullness of your flow, you need yoga. Totally different circumstances. Yoga, the way I'm using the word, is an art. It's an art form. What's the right environment for art? Is it safety, quiet, spaciousness? Possibly. Sometimes it is. But really, I mean, those of you who have done art in your way, and by art it could be musicianship, painting, raising your children as an art, singing. Think of the times you've been most inspired, the radical shifts in your art and so forth. I don't know how much you guys talk in front of each other, but usually most artists find those places at temporary extremes. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. Okay. So for art, you want to create temporary extremes. And that's true whether you're like an artist painter, like Picasso, chain smoking, abusing women, working, you're keeping it. out there, and that's how you do art. Not all the time, but if you know any artists, or you yourself are an artist, you know that whatever, drugs, sex, and rock and roll could be a big part of it. But so is just the emotional drama and tension of life could supply enough for good art. Very different from therapy. So if you want to make sexual art with your lovemaking, you want to go to the extremes. If you want to do therapy, sexual therapy, you want a safe environment. Totally different approaches. Shouldn't be mixed. Confusing when mixed. You know, like, I'm hurt and let's make art. Jesus Christ. I would like to practice sexual yoga. Do you love me? It doesn't work that way. If you're worried if you're loved, you need therapy. If you are ready to be light, even though everyone hates you, you're ready for yoga. And as usual, I'm speaking in extremes and also in blacks and whites when we do questions and answers and so forth. I'll try to refine it for you and in our discussion be more subtle and multi-dimensional and so forth, but we have to start with some broad strokes. Now, spiritual practice, the recognition that you are light, has absolutely no conditions for it whatsoever. And if you know of any, tell me. I've never seen anyone become spiritually open as a result of practice, personally. Let me say that as directly as I can. Take any modality of practice, Tibetan Buddhist meditation, hatha yoga, or I guess we're talking about yoga separately from spiritual practice. So let's just say Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, all of that. How many people do you know that are brilliantly enlightened from doing regular practices? And how many people do you know who have practiced regularly that are kind of just, I don't know, deluded jerks or just average people? And are the people you know the result of the long-time practitioners that you know? Are they more open than your grandmother? I don't know, but most grandmothers I know are more open than most spiritual practitioners I know. Especially as you approach death, really. If you've had a full life and you're relaxed and you open and you have that kind of wisdom. So I don't see any personal direct relationship between any kind of practice and spiritual realization. I know people who know they're light kind of spontaneously. They just went, wow, I'm light. I know people who have discovered their light at the end of 30 years of practice. I know people who don't even know they know their light, but they clearly are living that way compared to people who think they know their light. So I just think that it's important to separate those things because nothing's going to enlighten you. There are no conditions that can enlighten you. Enlightenment is unconditional. So to be light is not based on any conditions whatsoever. To practice yoga, to allow the flow to move more fully, that's based on conditions of extreme exploration, let's say. Willing to unturn every stone, push things to the edge, do an asana to the edge, dance beyond whatever you dance for, experiment with your voice while singing. It's risky, in other words. It's risky. And if you're a good artist, you fall on your face a fucking lot. You go, oops, poof, and you go, okay, let's try that again. But you don't want to do that if you're in a therapy mode. You know, someone's dealing with their issues of deep abuse, and you don't want to go, oops, I just ruined your life. You know, you don't want to violate people's boundaries. You don't want to push people when they're needing the safety of therapy, or yourself. But you must do that when you enter the yogic art domain. If you don't, you're probably still doing therapy and thinking you're doing yoga. Having said that, we can now approach sexuality perhaps with a bit more discrimination. I do therapy with people who need therapy at moments, and I'm certainly open to the mutual recognition of our existence as light. But my basic work with people, at least here, would be in that yogic dimension. So it would be to create situations of extreme exploration so that we can have moments of true revelation and offer that through our whole body as art. Now, in doing that, you will come across your dysfunctions, and you need to do those therapies, and we might do them here. And you may also have moments of flashing and realizing your light, and at that moment, there's no need for any practice. There's nothing. So those moments may happen, but the practice of the art of yoga requires a different kind of environment and motivation. It is not safe. It is risky. It is extreme in moments. It's done skillfully. It's extreme with care, of course. I'll stop there for a moment and see if anyone has any questions before I go on any farther.